Well, hi.
Hello. Episode 7.
Episode 7. I'm Deb Clavin-Mann.
I'm Jill Moniz.
And we are again sitting in front of the great work of Rodrigo Valenzuela. And what are we going to talk about this time?
Well, I want to know if you consider yourself an artist. People ask me all the time, am I an artist? Like they come into my gallery and they say, are you the artist?
Right. Yeah. That's definitely something that I get. And in connection to our last episode, happens a lot at art fairs towards the end as well. I think that in my secret heart of hearts, my answer to that is yes. But if people ask me, I definitely distinguish and say, no, I'm a gallerist. But I think that I do consider myself an artist. I do identify more with, being an artist and
being
the creative class.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that term with such profound profundity, but I do sort of identify with that more than I think anything else. How about you?
Wow. I always say it right off the bat, no, I am not.
Yeah.
I'm a curator, but I do think that there is an art to curating, and there is certainly an art to my curatorial program and practice, and so maybe I could say I'm an artist. I mean, I did study art.
Yes, me too.
And I found that I was really good at copying. Mm-hmm. In fact, I have had a long fascination with a group called the Milan Group. They were forgers.
Ooh, I'm so fascinated by forgeries.
Many art. Well, their works are in every major museum in Europe and some in New York. And they were just the best forgers in the world. And I really worked on that for a while, not because I wanted to sell forgeries, but just to understand how artists make work. So I've made some forgeries in my day.
That's so interesting.
I've made some artwork that is the exact replica of famous artists, really just to understand how they got to that point, or kind of unpack the way, the layers, and the process. But if you gave me a blank canvas, I would just stare at it like dummy, because I don't have that kind of creative impulse to make something from nothing. I need things. So that is how my curatorial practice really came about, is that looking at different work and creating, a way to let the work speak to each other and signify one idea is what I do. So is that an art? Yes. Am I an artist?
It's so interesting though, because so much of it is about where is the strongest location of your voice, right? So I think that I similarly was really good at replicating other styles. I had a technical skill, came to me very quickly. But I think where I found my voice most directly and with sort of the strongest presence was in curation and in, creating conversation and collaboration with other people. When people ask me about my experience of art school, I spent a lot of time in the studio, but I also spent more time wanting to talk to everybody else about their work and conceptualize and, find ways to make sense of whatever this mythology was that we were all creating together.
And you have an eye. I mean, and part of a successful gallery program is that you can really find what's meaningful.
Right.
In a lot of noise of many artists making lots of different work, you are able to really hone in on what's most meaningful. Yeah. So that is an art.
Yeah.
Do you think all gallerists are artists in that way?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think people approach from a lot of different directions. And then I think that there are some collectors who are, artists in the sense of, especially people who have a more limited means and like build collections over years and years and years and years. I think there's something really special that happens in that space as well. But I think that, I think that in my heart, I want to be able to say yes to that question, even if I hem and haw about it a little bit. Whether I remember what I was going to say. So I don't know if you've had this experience. We haven't talked about it, but I do have a little bit of a meh button about how people make the distinction between artist-run spaces and commercial spaces. Because often there'll be a lot of press about, here are the great artist-run spaces that you should see in LA. And sometimes it's very clear. It's an artist with a very active practice who is creating a space for themselves. But, I think we might have a gallery visitor. But the other side to that is that sometimes I think the more professional in certain ways the operation appears, the more commercial people start to conceive it as. And I think I've always taken a little bit of umbrage with that, whether I should or not.
I do have to say that when people ask, are you the artist?
Right.
There's a part of me that immediately is like, well, no, I'm like, no, duh.
Of course.
This is my space. I'm sitting here because this is what I do.
Right.
This is my part of this practice.
Yes.
And, then I have to take a step back and say, well, let me explain why I do these group shows and why there are all these different artists who obviously aren't here all the time representing their work, because this is a kind of project space where, we are thinking about ideas.
Yes.
And so I sometimes struggle between being, like the hyper-intellectual that I used to be, and, a scholar, and, doing this kind of artful, curatorial program, and then, but it does kind of keep me in check sometimes, because I'm like, no! And then I'm like, well, why am I so angry? When I do think of it as an art, and you can see my hand, certainly in the exhibitions that I do, you always know that they're mine.
Yes.
Versus other people's.
I think that's totally true. And I feel like it is, I'm glad you said that, because it is a little bit of a thing for gallerists, or like, somebody asked me if I was, the artist again, but at the same time, for people who are not familiar with the art world, and a lot of the people that we would love to have coming into our spaces more, it's a very understandable and natural question if you don't necessarily know how things are structured. So.
And I do have to say that really it's kind of flattering when people come in and say, did you make all of this work? Because all of my shows are about and they're about really diverse media, and so you can have paintings and tapestry and sculpture, and I'm like, wow, if you thought that I pulled this all off, I mean, I must be pretty damn spectacular. So
I think you're spectacular.
Give myself a little pat on the back for that, so but I think it's a question that we may need to unpack some more and find other ways of considering this larger audience that we really do want to engage, and how we begin to think about artists as, exclusive versus inclusive. And start changing our language a little bit.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Great. Next time.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thank you.